So very good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone who's joined the Whiz Talk today. Welcome to the third Whiz Talk, presented jointly by PMI Kerala chapter and PMI Lakeshore Ontario chapter. I am Rashmi Mohandas, your MC for the day. Our Whiz Talk speaker today is someone who is a wholesome volunteer with PMI Kerala. He's very active in our Toastmasters Club and is always available in our volunteering group to help out. He holds a master's degree in computer information systems and has over 20 years of experience in the IT industry. He's a certified Scrum Master and a DA Senior Scrum Master. He's got very good exposure to the agile ways of working. During his off working hours, he enjoys music, plays table tennis, and reads books. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Saurabh Jagatia for his Vistalk session today. Saurabh, over to you. Give me a
Thanks,
moment,
Rashmi.
please. I'll share your presentation.
Yeah. Thanks, Rashmi. And thanks for joining this session. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Based on the geographic locations that you are in, I'm very much excited to be part of PMI Kerala and share my thoughts on the same. And I want to have this session more interactive. I know we are in an online session, but we have very good collaborative tools now where if we don't meet physically also, but we can have a more collaboration. I want to have a session in such a way that as we go along with my session, I want you to put your input, suggestion, feedback, thoughts in the chat. And also in the last 10 minutes, we will have a session where I will be very much eager to know about your thoughts, input, suggestion, and your stories on this topic as we move along. And again, I'm pretty excited to share my thoughts on this topic and looking forward to discuss with you and talk to you on this subject. So let me start by introducing myself. Rashmi, slide second. Rashmi, you can change the slide. Hope I'm audible, correct? I'm audible?
Yes, Saurabh, you are.
Okay. You can change the slide, Rashmi. You can move to the next slide. I'm not seeing the slide change.
Okay, just a second. Please give me a second.
Sure.
Is it visible now?
Yeah. Go to this slide. Yeah, this prior to this.
This one?
No. Yeah. So this is me. This photo was taken in Nandi Hill in Bangalore. I don't know how many of you are from Bangalore. And you might have heard about Nandi Hill, which is a very good place near Bangalore. And if you have not visited Bangalore and plan to visit Bangalore, I recommend you to go to this place. It's a very nice place. I took this photo around 2 to 3 years back, and in morning time, it is a very nice place and a beautiful place to visit. And I recommend if you go in, and this is, so as Rashmi already told about me, that I'll not go much onto this because Rashmi has already given my profile and inputs. So I'll not spend much time on this. Rashmi, go ahead on the next slide, please. Yeah, so let me start this with a small story. Okay, how many of you know about Thomas Alva Edison? If you can put a comment in the chat. How many of you know about Thomas Alva Edison? Okay, so can you help me in understanding what are the important inventions that he has done? You might be knowing he has around 1093 patents on his name. Can you help me in understanding what are the inventions that he has done? Right, light bulb is one of them. Any other which you are remembering? Okay, yeah. So he was the greatest inventor of a century, correct? He knows he is known for his lot of inventions and patent. Now my next question comes is, how many of you know that for his filament, how many materials he has used or he has experimented on? Uh, Means how many for his filament of his light bulb, how many things he has checked? Any number you can guess? How many materials he might have used? Okay, 100. Any other guesses? Before he came to his final material for his filament, how many do you think he would have used the material to come to a final conclusion? 1000. Okay. Any other guesses? Okay. So I think 6000 failures. Okay. 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 So for his filament to come successful, he has used more than 20,000 material before he come to a point where he used his filament. 20,000. And the point here is when he was at a point where 20,000 filament material he used for his filament, one of his associates said that let's not do this experiment further because we are already seen 20,000 material we have used, but we are not successful. But you know what Edison has said? Edison said that I know now that 20,000 way which it will not work. So I very well know that I'm very much near to the success because I know that in the 20,000 material which I have already discarded and the next material will be successful. So totally a different way to look at the failures. That is where I will be talking about. In this session, we will not be talking about success stories. Don't be surprised. We will be not talking about success story of an organization, success story of a scientist. We will be talking about failures. And 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 I will, as we move along, you will be surprising to know how important is to talk about failures. So so that is where we will be talking about. We will be talking about more failures, what lesson learns from the failures, and we will be more focusing on failures than success. Don't be surprised as we move along, you will learn, understand more. So let's redefine failure. Let me tell you another story how failures can be redefined. Have you anyone heard about a company called 3M? 3M company? What generally they do? Anyone, any idea what they are famous for? Any input and suggestions? What they are famous for? 3M? Correct. This is what I will be talking about. The post sticky notes. It's a very fascinating story how the sticky notes were made. And you will be astonishing to hear that how a company like a 3M redefined failure, made a success story out of sticky notes. So let me tell you that story. There were two scientists which were assigned a very tough task by 3M to find an adhesive which will stick in any situation or any pressure or any hits, any heat or anything. They were trying to find an adhesive which will be successful in all the scenario. So two researchers worked on that adhesive. They tried a lot. They tried a various method to become a successful in that research. But you will be surprised, the results didn't came out successfully. The, the, the adhesive that they were trying to make was was considered as a failure in that organization. And it was coined as a name, which is named as the adhesive that fails. Now the real story comes. After some days or after some years, there was another scientist from their group which was attending a church singing choir, what we say, and he was he was singing, or he was singing a song, or he was singing a hymn, what we say, and there was one paper on his hymn which is keep on failing, keep on falling actually from the table, and he was trying his best to concentrate further, but he was not able to concentrate because that paper was also very important, where some instructions was reading and he was trying to read. Now this paper which was keep on failing was actually distracting him a lot. Then he then he then since he was part of that research group which was earlier having, he felt that how what is the thing which I can use such that I put this sticky note in such a way that I can remove it whenever is possible. And what is that adhesive which can be used in such a way that I peel off whenever it is required. So now you understand the story behind it. Which adhesive came into picture here? Can anyone tell me which adhesive that came for his rescue when he was trying to achieve this? It is the same adhesive which was coined as the adhesive that fails. The same adhesive which was coined as a failure in the organization was used for this purpose, and this particular product which is called sticky note, which you see on your fridge or a desk or something, came from that failure, or came from the lesson learned from that failure, which organization used it to create that sticky note, and rest is the history. So if there are various ways we can redefine failures, if we make our failure data rich, and if we learn from the failure, and that failure can again become a success story, uh, and that is where I will be talking about that. Rashmi, the next slide. So the concept that I will be talking about is called black box thinking. Anybody heard about black box? What does black box signifies? And in which industry the black box is used? Any idea? From where the black box word came and which industry used black box? Any idea? Any thoughts? Correct. Any idea why black box is used? Correct. Flight data recorder. No, this is not a concept of software testing. That is a black box testing is a separate thing. But any idea why aviation industry use black box? Yeah, to record flight data. But any inputs why, for what reason this data get recorded or the pilot communication get recorded? Any idea? Any thought? Any suggestion inputs for audit? Okay. Any other input? Fine. So I think most of the people has some idea on this, but the main idea behind aviation industry using black box is they do the flight data recording, they use pilot communication recording. So in case if any catastrophe, God forbid, any catastrophe happens or anything happened with the plane, this black box, which is a highly resistant material, the data in this black box is intact, get used by the aviation industry to understand why this catastrophe or failure happened, and why and what they can learn, what lessons they can learn from these failures, and how they can make sure that these failures which has been recorded doesn't go in vain, and the next lesson which is learned can be incorporated in coming time in the flights, so that the next flight become more safer. Okay, so that is where the black box thinking comes in, where where the idea here is to create system and culture that enables organization to not only learn from their successes, but all the failure before that success came should also be captured in such a way that those failure lessons can be also learned to go when the next success story comes. So that is where the black box thinking comes. Okay. Now, Rashmi, next slide, please. So that is where what we were talking about black box thinking in the aviation industry is called more as an open loop system. What is open loop system? Open loop system where the system is created in such a way that they are in a self-learning mode. The system itself learn from itself from the failures that has happened, and all the failures are captured in such a way that when the next iteration happened or the next feedback, once the feedback loop is complete and the next loop starts, there are data which are captured from the failure, and the next feedback loop learns from that failure and then work on it to improve their next feedback loops. So that is more of an open loop system. Now I want to explain you with another example of a closed loop system from a medical science. So in 18th century, what happens is there was incident happening where a lot of pregnant women were getting died within 2 to 3 days of pregnancy. Now it was astonishing that these cases are increasing a lot in one particular hospitals, and doctors were trying a lot to understand why it is happening. They tried to understand, that is called a perpetual fever or something, but the death rates are rising like anything. So they were trying to understand why it is happening. They were trying to understand whether the diagnosis is wrong, whether the instruments that they are using is wrong, whether the hospital infrastructure or the other kind of things are creating that problem. But since the death rates are increasing, the medical fraternity was in a very much challenging situations. Now, the question that comes to everybody's mind, that now how to correct this? So there was one doctor who came into picture, who started thinking in a very different manner. He started thinking that let me understand the process from beginning to end, that how doctors comes to exist, comes to treat these patients, how it happens, and what are the steps that doctor is taking before coming to a patient to treat the pregnant woman. Now, within this process, what they found out is, you might be surprised to hear, the reason for this problem was doctor was not cleaning their hands properly. So once the first patient completes his treatment, the doctor completes the operation, the hand wash of the doctor was not doing a proper hand wash of their hand. So the bacteria and all other infection which remains in their hand comes to the next patient, and the next patient, because of the previous patient's infections, was dying. Now with that input that he got, there was an astonishing results, that he started implementing these points, that doctor has to wash their hands very properly before they move to the next patient. And surprising results, this type of cases got reduced. So this is a perfect example of closed loop system, where there were there where doctors was, or medical fraternity was looking outside on the instrument, diagnosis, and all other things, but they were not looking within themselves, their processes, to improve on. So the closed loop system is where there is no feedback loop and there are nothing to improve on based on the mistakes that somebody is committing in the system. So mistakes are not always bad. Mistakes are only bad if we don't learn from those mistakes. If we learn from that mistakes, like how we have done in the aviation industry and not done in medical fraternity, the results were totally 360-degree opposite. But as soon as in the closed loop system also, when we start learning from our mistakes or failures, the results were very astonishing and many of the lives were saved. So that is what a difference between an open loop system and a closed loop system. Now if we know it very well that open loop system works so well, then a closed loop system, why we don't do it? If it's not a rocket science, that failures failure is a stepping stone to success, as we always say, and then if we learn from failure and if we go into open loop system, the system will be a very good to get a next success and all. But why, as a human being, or as a team or as an organization, we don't do that. There are a couple of reasons for that. The first of the reason is, as a human being or as a tendency, we are always in a portion of a blame games that we do. It comes, though we don't do intentionally, but it comes sometime very naturally. Uh, though we don't want to go into a blame games within the team, within two people or something, but sometime we go into a blame game, not intentionally, but it sometime happens. The next very important point which I want to talk about is a cognitive dissonance. Rashmi, next slide, please. So don't go into a technical terminology of this is a psychological term. We will not discuss too much in the technical detail of the psychological word of cognitive dissonance. Here I again want to give one more example related to cognitive dissonance. How it happens. Anybody heard about apocalyptic events or Apocalyptic? Anybody heard about this word? Apocalyptic? Anybody heard about this word? Apocalyptic? Okay. So the word signifies that many times there are many groups, cult or something. Yeah, it's a movie, but it's come from a word called apocalyptic, where what it means is there are many group, many people, many cult which try to predict that end of the world is coming. Okay. So there is a belief in many people that when they predict the end of the world coming. So I'll just give you one small example, which is a hypothetical example. It might have happened also. So that suppose there is a cult or a group of people who believe that the world will end in May 2024. For example, I'm just giving you an example. And there is a strong belief within them that it will definitely happen based on the guru of that cult or the way it is put to them. This group firmly believe that the world will end in May 2024. So based on that prediction, now we are in June 2023, they start preparing themselves in such a way that they have a strong belief that the world will end in May 24. So start preparing, they start living with their family more, they start situating from one place to another in such a way that all group of family comes together. Many people start in such a way that they came out from their job, they resigned from their job because they felt that only 1 year is left now in my life, lets me spend my time with family and all. So they start resigning from their job and everything start happening. May 2024 came, nothing happened. The world goes as how it is going. May 2024 morning happens, the world didn't end. Now, my question is, what do you think how this cult would have reacted to this particular situation when morning of May 2024 came and nothing happened to the world? What do you think this cult group or the cult guru would have reacted to this situation? I just want your inputs and thoughts. Anybody kindly put your comments in the chat. How this cult or a group would have reacted on May 2024 when the things has not happened and the catastrophe has not happened. Any idea? Any thoughts? Disappointed? The world didn't end. Why they get disappointed? They should be happy, correct? Any idea? Any other thought? Any other thoughts? Okay, so yeah, they were disappointed, but the main thought process here was analysis of failure in prediction. That's a very positive statement, but that is not how it happens with the human psychology. Okay, so they the point which they start mentioning is the world was going to end, but because of we predicting 1 year before, and because of our prayers and our inputs, and we came together and start praying of the God to the God. the world didn't end. Very surprising answer, correct? But that is where the cognitive dissonance comes into picture. Cognitive dissonance says that if I am part of any group or an individual, and if my beliefs get challenged by some other group or a people or a human being, my first reaction is to not accept that, because it creates an inner tension to me, and I will try to prove or prove that level best that my prediction and my inputs are correct. Because if I start accepting, then it creates an inner tension where my beliefs are getting challenged and the action is totally different from belief. So that is where cognitive dissonance comes. The problem with this particular psychological point, cognitive dissonance, is again in this example which I have given you. Now, there was no learning for that cult from the incident that has happened. Whatever has happened, they didn't learn from their mistake. Their prediction was wrong. Their their whole thing was wrong. The world didn't end. Some people have lost their jobs also. Some people moved from one place to another. But nobody was ready to learn from that mistakes or failures. That is where the point comes, that if there are some beliefs or some thought process or some inputs which are getting challenged by other person, and if we start not learn from the other person's thought process, mindset and all, again we will keep on repeating our mistakes without intentionally and without understanding also that we are committing a mistakes. So that is where the problem comes when in organizations or something, uh, and we go into this cognitive dissonance, and when other people is not understanding the other person's input, many times these mistakes are reframed, ignored, or come up with a different kind of data points to prove that they are right. And it is very dangerous thing that we are not learning from our failures or mistake. Though sometime we know that we are wrong, but still we don't agree and accept that, and we still keep on going with the same way that we are keep on doing from a long time. So that is what cognitive dissonance is all about. Uh, Rashmi, next slide, please. Right. So, so the other point, which is very important point, I think you might have heard about growth mindset and fixed mindset. I need some thought process or inputs that what you as a group, as a team knows about growth mindset and fixed mindset. Any thought, any idea? Anyone heard about this growth mindset and fixed mindset, uh, or a mindset thought process? Okay, so here again, I want to give a very good example. Anybody heard about Helen Keller? Helen Keller? Can you help me in understanding the personality of Helen Keller? Right, right. She became a teacher, correct. So Helen Keller is a very good example of how a growth mindset works. Helen Keller was a girl or a girl who was diagnosed as a blind at when she was at 19 months, and she was also was not able to speak, and then she was a totally a disabled person from 19th month. You can understand what we are talking about here. But she was having a mindset in such a manner that she don't want to get defeated by his disability, by her disability. She was having a very firm mindset that she really want to do something, though there are some challenges or something which may restrict her because of her disabilities, but she didn't consider her disability as a challenge. There are a lot of astonishing results of Helen Keller. If you read, if you Google it, she was the first lady who completed from a disability, who completed her Bachelor of Arts, uh, and she was the first 100 influential person. She has written 12 books, and there are a lot of success story of Helen Keller, which you can read in Google. How this has happened? Why we have to understand why some people, when they have some kind of challenges or or restrictions or something, some people don't go further, challenge themselves and move ahead. But some people, though they have disabilities, though have challenges, but still learn every day. There is a difference between the way their mindset operates. So a fixed mindset person will always talk about their limited capabilities, their if they were told to something to do, they will say that I don't have that capability to do. But growth mindset person is not that kind of person. Growth mindset knows their limitation, but they still want to learn every day, though they have a limitations. They have that learning attitude. They want to challenge themselves every day. They want to learn from others. They want to focus on process, not the outcome. They enjoy the journey, not the final destination, as we say. They enjoy the process, not directly the outcome. So that is a personality of a growth mindset. Yeah, you are right. Fixed mindset is not open for criticism. Uh, so if somebody is giving a constructive criticism, fixed mindset person does not take it as a feedback or input for his learning or improvement. But growth mindset will see that how that criticism or input or feedback given to him can be used as a learning opportunity for him. So that is a difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset person. And as we are in a very challenging time period, we are in a very different world together. Fixed mindset person will not able to flourish in today's world. We should definitely try to move towards growth mindset, which is every morning, we have to wake up and see what learning can we do today. What are the lessons we can learn today? If anybody is criticizing, what are the feedback we can take it from there to take it to next level. So that is a personality of a growth mindset, and we have a lot of stories like Helen Keller, or there are many others you will hear. They just flourished because they were having a growth mindset. Okay, next slide, Rashmi. Yeah, so now, as I know, there may be a lot of IT project managers here, and there are a lot of people who are coming from a project management background. I just created one slide to see that how we can apply this black box thinking in a project management perspective. Uh, you know that now we are talking about agile, where we are saying that we will get the input early from the customer so that we can learn from that. We are talking about, I will not go too much technical into agile because this is not that subject of agile here, but agile mindset was created for that purpose only. That since the other model was not working, the thought process of agile mindset was that how to get the customer feedback early so that we get an opportunity to learn what we are not doing correct based on the customer feedback. Take those feedback, have a marginal progress every time, have a iterative model or some model where where we are showing a marginal gain every sprint, what we say. And in that marginal gain, when we go back to the customer and tell them that this is what we have done, we should be open to their feedback, improvement, suggestion, and take those improvement, suggestion, feedback, and in the next incremental, input those inputs, feedback, incremental, and other thing, such that the next feedback loop improves as compared to the previous feedback. So we are doing a marginal improvement every time, not going as a big bang, but doing a marginal gain or marginal improvement at every increment, showing that marginal gain and improvement to the customer or our stakeholders or the client, get the input feedback from them, and then work on it, and then improve our the next incremental or a feedback loop. That is a major concept of what we say an agile mindset is. Frameworks and all are there, but ultimately the agile mindset means that. And that is where the black box thinking comes into picture in our project management also. These frameworks or this works or prototypes or the thought process can only work if we have a thought process of a black box thinking where we are open to the inputs which customer has said, not trying to defend our positions always, where we have to improve on. Take those feedback, have a growth mindset within our team, so that when team members are talking or when team members are debating or having a conflict, always having that kind of growth mindset within the team, so that we can take that open thought process or inputs from other people and incorporate it if any changes are required. So all those thought process of black box thinking or a growth mindset or an open loop system, if we apply in our project management with agile methodology or any kind of methodology, ultimately our projects will show more successful result. So I don't want to go into too many terminologies here. I just want to put a point here that if all those frameworks and all those inputs that we have, like we talk about MVP, MPI and all, but this can only be successful if our mindset is more towards growth mindset. If we incorporate, if we take failure in a very positive way, we learn from them, then only this kind of mindset will work. Rashmi, next slide. Yeah, so I just thought of telling you that we are incorporating black box thinking in our project manager with minimum business increment, where we don't go a big bang, but we create a small increment, show to the customer, understand, get the feedback from that. And these are various terminologies which we used in disciplined agile, where all these are things. But my main thought process here is all this is fine, but if we don't have that kind of mindset or that kind of approach to take failure in a positive manner, then all these things will never be successful in a way that we need, that we want. So I I just want to end this particular session with some one quote which Henry Ford has said, that failure is an opportunity to try intelligently the next time. So failure should not be considered as such that there is something bad has happened. It's just an opportunity. It is just an opportunity to learn. It is just an opportunity that there are some feedback that we got, and use intelligently the next time, such that uh, these failures lessons can be learned and next increment can be improved on. So in this quotation, I just want to add one more line which Henry Ford has said, that failure is an opportunity uh, to use again intelligently with lesson learned from our previous failures. So, so that is where if organizations start thinking the failures as a success stepping stone and start thinking that failure is also required for any innovation and create a team culture to have a positive relationship with failure, automatically everything comes in place and things will fall in place. So that is where I thought of sharing my thoughts on uh, how to redefine failures, or how we can use failure as a learning opportunity, and how black box thinking, which is used in aviation industry, can be used in other domains, other industry, and and can be successful in other industries also. If aviation industry, if you see, out of, there are a lot of data points which proves that maybe out of 50,000 flights, one flight is failing, but that is a big devastation. But see their success stories, because they are openly, very much open to learn from their failures which has been recorded in their black box. And same black box thinking, if we start applying in other domains, I think we can be very successful in other industries also. That is where I end my thought process, and I will be very much glad to know. And there are some recommendations of the book. I think this is not my concept, to be very frank. This is a book which is called Black Box Thinking by Matthew Syed. Very interesting book to read. I recommend that you read this book. There is a lot of examples which has given from aviation industry, how aviation industry got successful from black box thinking. Lot of example for medical and legals. Lot of other examples which has proved that how black box thinking can be used in other domains and how it can be successful. So I recommend this book called Black Box Thinking. There is another book on cognitive dissonance, which I am reading now currently. Mistake happens, but not by me. I think very interesting thought there. You may understand what I am saying here. That book is totally written in such a way that many time when mistake happens, first answer is no, no, I am not the person who has done the mistake. It is another person. But then if we go with that kind of mindset, I don't think there is any lesson learned from that. Very good book to read. Maybe if you have time, you can read the book called Mistake Happens, but not by me. So these two books from where I get this thought process, and I recommend to read this book. It will be really helpful. This was just a small session, but that book has a lot of inputs on this thought process, and hopefully uh, we will able to change the culture in our organizations, in our home, where we'll not start treating failure as what it is currently stigmatized. My idea here is to start thinking failure as a stepping stones to success within our home, within our organizations, within our projects. And let's start treating failure is also an important thing as part of our success stories. Thank you. Thank you very much. Open to the session. I will be very much. Uh, it will be very helpful if I get some input from the team on this particular topic, and I will be open for your suggestion, thought process, and inputs. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Saurabh. Very, very insightful, very detailed talk. Thank you so much for that. Do you have any questions, the people who are here? Do you have any questions for Saurabh, which we can probably address now? You could probably unmute yourself and speak. That should be fine.
Any stories which you want to share also is fine. I think it's not a technical topic where some questions can be asked. I think it cannot be a QA and sessions, but any stories which you felt that resonates you, it will be very helpful.
I thought somebody was trying to speak.
Okay, go ahead.
Me, Patrick. Actually, on your list, my name is Handel, which is the correct name. Anyway, I don't think, I think what you pointed out in your presentation is excellent as for black box thinking. But what I'm here to say is that that is not necessarily a new kind of thinking because I think it was actually based in the quality industry, particularly in ISO, where you're looking for mistakes, but it's not about blaming the individuals. It's about actually looking at the system and trying to find better ways to improve. My question here, of course, is, I think for most project managers here is, yes, they're going through and they're trying to meet their resource requirements, their scheduling and their budgets and so forth. And mistakes do happen, but it's all about, how do they approach their sponsors and, of course, trying to make them at least open mind about, yes, we have a restricted budget, but we got to move forward and give them this kind of black box thinking. I think that's how do we open up those kind of questions in a project management session? That's my query.
Anyone want to put their thought process? I think anyone want to volunteer for answering Patrick, or anyone want to give some inputs based on their experience, thoughts, how this challenge can be incorporated? But how to make our stakeholder into confidence and put these mistakes in such a way that it can be corrected and and whole project also remains in scope and schedule and all, correct?
Saurabh, I'm not trying to say that any project manager is going to make a mistake. No.
Right. Okay.
There are various factors in every project that leads to, you know, being over time, the slack is taken up. The point here is, you know, trying to get everyone away from the idea that there is fault associated with anyone's mistake. And it's, you know, there's always going to be finger pointing. Project
Right.
sponsors are going to say, well, you know, you're the project manager, you do it this way. Where I'm going with this is, for me in this field, I've always been very confident about questioning and, you know, opening up the floor to my leaders about the challenges and risks that lay ahead. They're never well received because no one wants to actually, you know, accept some of these things, and it's always trying to figure out a way in which to pass on the buck. But it is a challenge.
Right.
It is. It's an ongoing challenge, and I'm sure there are many people on this call who understands what you're presenting in the black box thinking of getting people to see that failures are an opportunity to learn and utilize it going forward and be a better person in the long run or a better organization.
Right.
But in a capitalistic thinking where the bottom line is a dollar, how do we
Right.
really and truly get folks to override that? And
Yeah, Patrick. Yeah, it's a very practical problem,
yeah,
but it is where our culture, organization culture, or our leadership culture comes into picture. That is where is the most important thing. What I always think that whatever leaders do, whatever the culture that leaders try to build from top to bottom, the whole culture get built like that. So that is a very important thing that how our leadership thinks about the failures when it happens in an organization. The one thing which I always see in my periphery and my thing is people don't like any stakeholders does not like surprises. The only problem it happens is when the failures are told at a very later stages. Though the organization or team knows that there are some failures which are coming in place. So if you see in many project management meeting, though our project is in red, we try to show with lot of data points that our project is in green. Okay. But that is where the challenge is. As a team, as a project, we know that there are a lot of challenges, bottleneck in our project. But when we go to the leadership, the instruction that we go, no, we cannot show our project in red. That is not right. We have to show our project in green. Because otherwise, what leadership will think about the team? But that is where the challenge is. Because sooner or later, the leadership will definitely know that the project is in red. Though, so that is where, and the problem with this problem is the reason it happens is because the upper leadership or the stakeholder is not also open up to understand that if somebody talks about failure, how much they are open up for that. So I think definitely it's an ongoing challenge where this concept need to be implemented in a very different manner. But as per my thought process, if those failures are taken at a very later stages, if that get opened up very later stages, anyway the project will be boomed to be failure. Instead of we bring it early so that later on surprises can be removed and we try to work together still, and we have to, the only way is how we communicate those failures. The communication of the failure is also important. Many times I have heard in my some of my project meetings, people come in the leadership meeting, senior leaders, senior managers comes in the leader, they just escalate on the issues that they are talking about. But that is not the way, correct? If we are talking about issues, leadership also want to understand that what are the actions we are taking to remove those bottlenecks. Just coming and talking about failure is not what I'm talking about in this session. What are the actions that we will be taking to remove those failures is also the responsibility of a project manager. So not talking about failures, but also an action or the accountability the project managers takes about the failure, and then coming up with an action plan saying that, okay, this is a failure that's going to happen, but this is an action plan which is in my mind, and this is how I will incorporate the action plan. If that much visibility and that much accountability and ownership and action plan we bring, I think any leaders will start accepting that failure. But the problem happens when we just talk about failure, but there is no action plan against that failure, is where the leadership don't like, is my understanding. But yeah, Patrick, you are right. It is not easy to incorporate. There are a lot of things and things, but I think as a human being, as a project manager, this particular thinking, if we incorporate, it will lead to a long-term success.
Thank you, Saurabh. Thank you so much, Patrick, for that question. It's actually made a lot of us think into how to drive these sort of thoughts within an organization. Saurabh, thank you very much for an insightful and, like I said, detail-driven talk. We've all got a lot of takeaways for today. So with that, we've reached the end of the Whiz talk today. The PDU code will be displayed on screen. That's the PDU claim code. We've got one PDU associated with this event. Please make a note of it. So thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining this. We'll meet you again on our next Whiz talk. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for giving that opportunity. I really thanks PMI Kerala for giving me that opportunity. Thank you.